Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I'm glad you're here. Well, I know that we've tried to get as much information out of news alerts and Facebook, but I know not everybody is always has all those services available. So we wanted to have a face-to-face, make sure we answered your questions. We're giving you information out, but we want to make sure we're answering all your questions and what you're seeing out there. So hopefully, first of all, my name is Margaret Silveira. I'm the city manager. Very sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I have all my staff here that's been working diligently throughout the whole emergency. I have Kevin Ingram, he's our community development director, and our PIO. So most of the nixles and reports that you've been getting have been coming from Andrew. PIO is the public information officer, and also Andrew Britton has been putting out all the Facebook posts. We got Doug Ryder is our Public Works Director. You've been seeing his name on a lot of things. And Paul Harris is our Utilities Superintendent, deals with water and sewer issues with the city. And Victor Rico is here as an interpreter. Is there anyone in the audience that does need interpretation? Okay, so we'll let you have a seat. And all my officers have been awesome, so thank you to all of them. This is Chief Brad Rasmussen. Most of you know our chief here. And Nick Walker is our finance director. And also in the back, I have Jody Trapsero, who is from OES, and her partner David Cruz, also from OES, to answer questions that are bigger than the information we have here at the city level. And then I'm going to have Brad introduce the Army National Guard, who has been very helpful here and with us and on standby for emergencies. For that, I'm going to, I have Mayor Stacy Martina, who has been very active in working with our EOC staff during this whole emergency. I have a Vice Mayor, or Mayor Pro Tem, Maria Turner, George. Oh my God, I'm just blank. I've been working. Our council member in the audience also, I'm sorry, my brain is fried after 12-hour days for a week and a half, but thank you for being here. Any other council members that I have here? So anyway, with that, we got all the inspections. We have Tom Carlton, who's been doing all the inspections and been being real kept busy with all the emergency incidences at the homes and inspecting homes and making sure that whether it's safe or not to be in there. So, and we'll be doing a lot more of that as the water recedes. So, having said all that, we have Kelly Buendia. She's our Administrative Services Director. She's in the background a lot, but she's the one that keeps all the information together and helps us get all the information out. So, with that, Brad, would you like to address?
Hey folks, there's several more seats. We got plenty of seats up here. Anybody that needs a seat, we got plenty of seats.
So up here too.
So before we get into some of the issues that different department heads or different emergency staff here at the city are going to address, I want to just let you know we've got 4 National Guardsmen here in the back of the room, and I just want to explain their mission and role in assisting with the Lakeport City flood emergency is to provide a high clearance vehicle with operators to get us in to areas that may be flooded. If we have an emergency, we need to bring somebody out due to a medical issue, or we have a law enforcement emergency. Then we have a procedure set up that they'll be called by one of our officers, who will then get in the rig with them and go into the site. We have several sites in the city that still have significant water on streets, and we want to be able to safely get in and get out without destroying or damaging vehicles that shouldn't be doing that. So I really appreciate them being here. They've sent a unit out of the 579th Engineers Battalion from Santa Rosa, who are on standby to respond as long as I feel that's necessary, which I think is hopefully going to start to go away here in a few days. So with that, we're going to turn it over to our Public Information Officer, who's going to address lake and water issue and weather issues.
Yeah, so just really quickly, just a quick overview of what's going on with the lake right now. It currently is sitting at about 10 Rumsey. As you know, flood stage is anything above 9, so we're still a foot above flood stage. With no rain, we're seeing about 1.5 inches of reduction on the lake a day. New rain events, just kind of at total saturation level, which we're kind of at. New rain events add approximately 1 inch of rise on the lake for every 1/3 inch of water that we receive during a rain event. So with that, County Water Resources Department has told us that even with no additional rain events from here on out, we're not likely to see the lake recede back to 7.79, 7.75 Rumsey, which is our normal full status of the lake, by the end of March. With that in mind, we're kind of monitoring forecasts, as I'm sure everybody is. What we see currently is rain in the forecast beginning on Saturday and looking like through next Thursday. It doesn't appear to be a significant event, but our flood briefing, our weather update that we got today shows for Saturday and Sunday possibility between 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain. So we're continuing to monitor those flood forecasts. In addition to the flood, we're also keeping a very close eye on wind as well. What we're seeing a lot of our damage coming from is from wind, particularly out of the south and the east. Nothing on the horizon right now seems to show anything like we saw a couple weeks ago on that Friday afternoon. I'm sure most people remember. But we're continuing to monitor those, and we will send out public information notices on any of those things if those conditions do change. So I think that I'm going to hand it back over to Brad for some evacuation updates.
So on the evacuation updates, all of our evacuation orders still remain in effect unchanged. Our goal is to lift those as soon as we can, but before we do that, we've got to make sure areas are safe. Some areas are more impacted than others with more significant issues that we have to address. So we're still running our emergency operations center as of today to try to make all these plans, and we're reviewing all these things a couple of times a day to see when we can change them. The goal is to get those lifted and be able to get people back to driving in areas and using areas and being in their homes as soon as we can. So with that, that's because there's floodwaters that are still impacting all of these 4 areas that we ordered evacuated. And we're going to be continuing to check and do updates throughout the days on them. So that's the current situation there.
All right.
Yes?
The Adventist Church is still going to be open till the end of March for all the evacuees.
That's our understanding, is that the goal is for them to be open until the end of March. It is running at capacity with evacuees, and the Red Cross is there completely supporting the church and trying to work through to keep that open and keep people have that place available.
We're very, very thankful to what the Seventh-day Adventist Church is doing for our evacuees up there. They're doing a great job.
Plus the warming shelters.
Right. So we very much appreciate all the work you're doing up there. Thank you.
As co-chair of the Esplanade Neighborhood Watch, along with Vernon Schaefer here, we want to thank Chief Rasmussen for doing a great job. We're highly organized down there. As Chief Rasmussen knows, he's always let us know what to expect. We've always been able to organize around what the chief has had to say. The officers have all done a great job. And so I just wanted to say that. We're talk to each other. We know the condition of everybody there, who's not. We have a looting watch organized if we ever needed it. And of course, we appreciate the National Guard being available if it was really necessary. We have a lot of seniors. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. We really appreciate Chief Rasmussen. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
That's a great example of what a really good neighborhood watch team does. That they're amazingly organized what they do, and so thank you to you too for what your group does. It's great for assistance with the city. Appreciate that.
Thank you. at this point, I have the next section, which is to address Willow Point. How many folks do we have here from Willow Point? Are you folks also going to be at the 7 o'clock meeting at the shelter, or no? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the highlights with Willow Point. And everybody here does anyone need an interpreter? We asked that earlier, but
Yeah, there's probably a few that might.
here right now?
Here or 7 o'clock?
¿Quién ocupa intérprete ahorita, Marie? ¿Nomás ustedes?
You want an interpreter here?
Yeah.
Okay, Victor. We'll get Officer Rico back up here. I think you came in a few minutes after we announced that, so just want to make sure. So Victor, if you can let them know that the Willow Point evacuation order is expected to last longer than other evacuated areas due to the fact that the California Department of Housing and Community Development, is it?
Yes.
Has red tagged, in other words, posted against occupancy all 41 homes in Willow Point.
Las evacuaciones en Willow Point van a durar más porque el Estado pusieron las etiquetas rojas en las casas. So va a durar más para ustedes que regresen ahí.
The police department is working hard today and will begin in the morning to try to organize a vehicle recovery. We understand that many residents of Willow Point have vehicles that have to be left behind that they need to go about their lives and work. Our goal, the first thing we want to do is get that vehicle recovery organized. However, go ahead and catch up, Victor, and I'll go
So,
into the
estamos
other.
haciendo todo lo posible para ayudarlos a agarrar sus vehículos que dejaron atrás en Willow Point. Sabemos que es algo muy importante para ustedes, so estamos trabajando duro en averiguar cómo podemos hacerlo.
So the reason that's taken a little bit to organize is that we've got to work with many agencies and organizations to make sure that to evaluate the area, if there happen to have been any contaminants in the water, then we need to give you appropriate safety instructions and direct you towards making sure that we don't get any contamination for you or us when we're walking into these areas.
Estamos poniendo un equipo junto para hacer, agarrar los vehículos. No queremos queremos saber que si está contaminados los vehículos o lo que sea, cuando ustedes vayan no queremos que ustedes se contaminen también. Entonces estamos tratando de trabajar para averiguar todo eso.
So if you want to call our emergency operations line tomorrow to get an update on that, or we'll write our number up here on this board. And once our building official finishes communicating with environmental health and other appropriate agencies like HCD to make sure we're doing things right, then we will put out a notice to you guys when we're ready to do that vehicle recovery. So I just want to know, when you see delays, it's always because of our desire to do things safely for you and for our staff.
Y ahorita vamos a poner un número que pueden llamar mañana para que les sigan dando avisos del proceso de todo lo que estamos haciendo.
The other important thing with Willow Point is we are very aware that many residents in Willow Point have important things that they need to recover out of their houses. So the next thing after the vehicle recovery would be to try to organize a day where we may be able to bring people in to get some critical items out of their houses. Again, we have the same safety concerns. That one's a lot more complex to get set up. So we will keep you updated on that as well once we get, if you want to continue to call in to our emergency line, we can keep updating you on that. And it was what I announced to the Willow Point residents on Sunday night was that it was my hope to within a couple of weeks, try to do that. But I can't promise a date because I don't know what the conditions are going to be. If, we need to get all the water out of there, first of all. And so we're hoping that the storms coming in aren't going to bring that much rain. But we will keep you updated on that.
Que también sabemos que tienen cosas bien importantes en sus casas. So, después de que averiguamos la situación de los carros, vamos a tratar de escoger un día para que ustedes vayan a sus casas a agarrar lo que necesiten, que son importante. No sabemos exactamente cuál día, pero sigue llamando el número que van a poner ahí arriba para los avisos y le van a decir cuándo.
And if anyone has any questions on that after the meeting, we will keep Officer, we have to go to another meeting a little later, but we'll try to be here for a few minutes to answer any specific questions. With that, Doug, you're up on roads.
Do you want to repeat that last bit in Spanish?
Oh,
Ya,
sorry,
que
yes.
Nos vamos a quedar unos minutos después de esta junta para si tienen preguntas, pero a las 7 tenemos otra junta allá en el shelter, en el parkway.
Good evening, my name is Douglas Kreider, I'm the Public Works Director. I'm the lucky guy that gets to be in charge of all the roads, drainage, and infrastructure in the city. An update on where we are with...
Hey, Doug, can we let Rico catch up?
Oh, yes.
Es Doug, es el encargado de las carreteras de la ciudad.
I'm sorry, I talked kind of fast. To give an update on where we are with road closures, all the road closures that have been in place are still in place, starting at the south, working back north. That would be Royal Avenue, the Esplanades, part of all the side streets running into the Esplanades, and then we get out to Lakeshore. And kind of where we're at right now with the lake receding. Tomorrow we'll be doing another assessment. I'm hoping that we could, we're going to take a hard look at Royal Avenue on possibly being able to open up Royal Avenue. Again, it's going to depend on how far the water recedes and if we be able to assess if there's any road damage under the water is what we're really looking for. To make sure that somebody's not going to drive into a sinkhole or something else is going on there that you can't really see underneath the water. So we'll be doing those assessments, which we do every day, again tomorrow. Hopefully we're going to be working on getting Royal open. Unfortunately, the Esplanades are still under a lot of water. It's going to be a little while before we're able to open the Esplanades. Lakeshore has some good news and some not so good news. The portion from Lang Street to the city limits, we're going to be going in tomorrow and doing debris removal and assessing the street. And if everything comes out the way we think it's going to, we'll be opening that section back up to travel. The detour will still be in place from Lakeshore to, if you're coming into town, to Lang, and then from Lang down Geiselman back to Lakeshore. For those of you that didn't know, we have opened it up from, we had Lakeshore closed at Green Street for a long time because of the flooding at Geiselman. That water is receded. We have moved that closure now back to Geiselman, so that you don't have to go up Green and across Sayre and out Geiselman. You can actually come all the way to Geiselman now, turn and go up towards the school to use that. Hopefully we'll have that detour all set up and ready to go, and Lakeshore Boulevard open to that point. From Geiselman to Lang is a totally different story. We know for a fact that we have some severe road damage. We have actual undermining underneath the pavement coming in from the lakeside. We can't tell how far that undermining goes. We know there's a stretch of at least 200 feet. We don't know. We're hoping it doesn't go past center line. We'll be assessing that as the water continues to recede. We are strategizing and trying to come up with a plan on how we're going to deal with that to try to get traffic back to using Lakeshore. Our goal right now, if things work out, is once the water recedes enough that we can have the southbound lane open, is to put in some kind of a signalized traffic control there. So it'll be one-way traffic using the southbound lane, which we feel at this time is sound. We're not going to know for another day or two, but we're estimating that southbound will be sound. So you'll come up, there'll be a signal somewhere before Sayre. It'll be just like a regular stoplight that you get in any city, one on both ends. It's set up on a time schedule. It's not a pressure sensitive. So there will be a time set on it, 2-3 minutes. You'll have to wait. And it doesn't, so I'm trying to tell you, it won't turn green just when you pull up. It's on a timer, so it's going to be a time. And then it will turn green. That traffic behind that light, we have to try to figure out how many cars we're going to have queued up. And they'll go through, and then they might be gone for a couple seconds before yours turns green. And then the other direction will be allowed to use that same lane and go in the opposite direction. And the reason we feel that we have to do that is when you try to put two directions of traffic on a single lane, we don't want any head-on collisions. We don't want somebody that's just not paying attention and all of a sudden they run into somebody. So by going with a signalized intersection, signalized control, that will run 24 hours a day. We don't have to have flaggers out there. You're trying to stretch what little resources we have as far as people. I'm sorry, I have gone.
I have a solution for that. Was that pretty much it? Or?
That's real close.
Okay, so Officer Rico is going to just go through the points real quick on what the road closures are, so the Spanish speaking folks just get that information.
I apologize.
Sorry.
Nomás para avisarles que todavía las carreteras que están cerradas todavía no se pueden manejar, so Royal, Esplanade y partes de Lakeshore ahí donde está Lane. Especialmente en Lakeshore, a lo mejor la carretera se va a collapse, no sé cómo se llama. So nomás recuerden que no manejen en las calles que están cerradas. Public Works, Doug y su equipo mañana, todos los días se fijan en las carreteras a ver qué clase de cosas pasan por la carretera, para ver si asegurarse que si se va a poder manejar en el futuro, sino para poder arreglarlos. Hay partes que son más hondos que otros, no se puede averiguar si están bien o no. Otra vez no manejen en las carreteras que están cerradas.
And I'm sure you got it because it was the top one, but I haven't mentioned it. And I'll get to your question just right after I make this statement. Please don't drive in the water in the areas that are closed. There's a number of reasons. The biggest reason is in most of those areas, you can't tell what's under that road. There could be a sinkhole, there could be a log laying in there. You just don't know. And the last thing we want is for someone to think they know that they've got it and then end up getting hurt. And possibly maybe some first responders or public works guys come to help you, they get hurt trying to get you out. So we understand the frustration, but just please don't do that. And another reason is in the areas where the water is particularly deep, what happens is when you have a vehicle traveling through there, and most of the offenders have been big, tall, four-wheel drives, and they're going way too fast, and they create a wake that actually goes up to the neighbors living along that piece of the street, and it will roll where they've had no water in their house. That wave will roll right under their front door. So those are the reasons why we say please don't drive in areas that are closed, that are flooded. So, you had a question, sir?
I live on Royale Avenue. We still have people driving in and out through the lake, and I think it's mainly for lack of information, because they just moved the barrier out of the way and drive through the water. There should be a sign up there that says, "This, don't do this, this is against the law."
Well, there was a sign on there that said, no motorized vehicles beyond this point.
Exactly, that's a good sign.
And unfortunately, in the world that we live in today, there are a lot of people that feel that that does not apply to them.
Can we shoot at them?
I cannot authorize that. I'll have to talk to Brad, that is close. So we've tried to sign everything as much as we can, but there comes a point when us that deal with that, we call it sign pollution. And if you get too many signs out there, people don't read any of them. So, but I will check, well, I'm hoping we're gonna open Royal for you tomorrow. But I will have staff double check to make sure that all of our barricades have that notice on, because I know Royale did have that.
It does. It did this morning.
Yeah, has that sign on it. And if Brad's officers, go ahead,
Did we
Margaret.
put the barricade all the way across on that street? We,
No.
like, ignore what's completely closed
And
off?
four mini.
We did have them,
Yeah.
okay, they're still going around those, okay.
Right.
Yeah, there's enough room for a vehicle to get through, and people do.
Okay.
Doug, they're moving them on Lakeshore too, they just.
Oh, they're
just
moving,
everything.
my staff is
Yeah.
constantly.
That's happening throughout this city.
Yeah,
Has
well, I
been.
think it's
Constantly.
because there's no water, there's very little water there now, so they just figured they could drive through it and get out and move the fence.
Right.
Yes, ma'am?
Yes, and I'm not sure if you're the one that's gonna address this. There was talk of pollution from the sewer in
There is no-
some of those
We'll let-
areas
we'll let-
where people
we'll
were
let
talking
Paul
about
address-
feces in the water and everything.
Paul will
Yeah,
address
Paul
that.
Just wanted
can
to
address
know.
that. Fortunately, I can address one fact. It did not come from the Lakeport's municipal sewer system. We know for a fact that we've had no leaks, no spills. And so what that's referring to is outside of our sewer system. When you have water that's inundating farmlands in particular, but people's backyards, and it's more animal feces than human feces, but animal feces carry the same pathogens and bad things in it that human feces carries. And so when you have a flooding event, and yards get flooded and farmland gets flooded, then all of that becomes.
Can we let,
We're getting too far behind again.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I just wasn't sure. I wanted,
I hope that
Well,
answers your
'cause-
question.
Before we answer any more questions,
I'm done.
I'd like to have an opportunity for Officer Rico to get caught up on where Mr. Grider was at.
Okay. So nomás dijo que por favor, como les dije, no manejen en las áreas que están cerradas. Si manejan, el vehículo causa olas, las olas le pegan a las casas y le hacen daño a las casas. Y luego también mete agua en lugares que no estaban inundadas. También pueden haber hoyos en la carretera, se pueden quedar ahí atrapados, se pueden lastimar. Los bomberos, policías que van a ir a ayudarlos, a lo mejor también se van a lastimar tratando de ayudarlos. So, ya nomás, otra vez no manejen en esas áreas que están cerradas, porque nomás va a causar problemas.
Before we get off our roads, I just wanted to reiterate, I know people are frustrated that people continue to drive around barricades and do this stuff. We have put out countless press releases and social media posts. We've also gone to neighborhoods and worked with neighbors who have told us they would reach out to their neighbors and let them know, because the one thing I will tell you, that a lot of the vehicles driving in these flooded areas live in that neighborhood. And we've had to go out and educate neighbors in person that, look, you're damaging your own neighbor's property when you choose to drive in and out. So I just can't stress enough, we want neighborhoods to work with each other and try to get that education out, because you can put out 1 million press releases and notices, it's not going to change people's behavior in every sense.
Can I address that road issue at kind of where you just were? In my case, for instance, I've had, as these barricades move back and forth, I have home, which is in between one set of barricades, and I have another piece of property which we own that I'm responsible for, which is in between another set of barricades. So going with what you said is, yes, there are people who do need to get into those areas. I gotta come home at the end of the day. But respecting each other and the damage, as I've watched these vehicles that you talked about flying through there, the wake is incredible. So one of the things that I've done, even though I'm in a four-wheel drive, I drive almost at crawl speed, both because I don't know what's ahead of me in some of these circumstances, and in the not wanting to create wake on my own stuff as well as my neighbors. So for those who do have to get in and out of there, just try your best to be respectful of the people that are before and after you, because, you know, I mean, nobody can just not go home. So I just wanted to add that to for those who do have to go in behind those barriers. It's not like they can go up and we can just not go home for a while when our homes aren't damaged, but the roads are.
Can you walk
I
to your
understand
home?
what you're saying, but
No, actually, I can't walk to my home.
I
Can't
understand.
walk to your home?
No, I can't walk to my home. But if I could, I would. But again, the respect is I'm very aware of both what can potentially happen to my home and yours. So in that, I do definitely want to say for myself as well as others is when you do have to go through, try and go through it creating as little wake as possible as you're bringing in. I've had to bring in sandbags and stuff. I can't carry those in. So there is a necessity for some, but I think respect above everything else for each other goes a long way.
I understand what you're saying, but there could be a lot of other issues like the people driving over the undermined road where they could collapse into the lake by several feet. So just because of the water is not always the only reason. The road may not be structurally safe to be driven on. And so that's why we put out, if you're choosing to stay in an area where you're flooded around your home, you need to park outside and walk in. I understand you may have a different issue. We can talk about that separately, but I appreciate your bringing your concern forward with us.
I've noticed going down at the bottom of Canoctag, which we could use some debris clearance there, along with Royal there, but people come down and they don't even know where the road is. They're like driving all over our neighbor's lawn and their property. Once the water goes down, their property, it must be, looks like a mess. And people don't even know where the road is.
Right. We understand that is a big issue.
All right. Paul Harris, Utility Superintendent. I'm in charge of the sewer system and the water system. Flooding is always challenging for our wastewater system because as the lake comes up, of course, it wants to find its way into the collection system, whatever path it can take. So we've been very diligent in trying to be ahead of the lake rising and going and checking all the cleanouts and manholes, making sure everything's secure to limit the amount of intrusion in the system. You can do all you can, but you're not going to limit all of it. You're still going to have intrusion. And as a result of the lake coming up, we did have some pretty high flows taxing our system. One of the things out by Esplanade, our C Street lift station, we did have pumper trucks there for a while to keep that down. We had them there for that reason. There wasn't this overflow because we didn't have the pumper trucks there to keep it down. That was our peak night, was that particular night. I think it was Tuesday. Anyway, so we've been trying to stay ahead of it, and the flows are coming back down. I just wanted to say we sent out a Nixle public information to conserve, and so everyone that conserved, thank you, it did help. We saw some reduction in flow, so I appreciate those efforts. As I reported, we've had no sewer spills through this event at all. We've been very closely monitoring everything and keeping everything under control. And we're also actively preparing for any future rains. We have to think long-term for our storage reservoir up at the wastewater plant, irrigation, so we're planning all that out, trying to stay ahead of it, and always looking through our pump stations. We have a monitoring system, it's called SCADA, that actively looks at all of our pump stations, and we're keeping track of which ones are receiving the most flows, and that can prompt us to look and see if there's a problem. And finally, I'll hit on what Doug had mentioned, and that's taking precautions in the lake water. Again, we haven't had any sanitary sewer overflows, but there are septic systems out there. There are private systems that have likely failed or been compromised, and so you just have to treat the water, lake water, with caution. So I definitely, if you go in with some hip waders or boots, definitely take them off before you go into the house, that kind of thing. Just take that into consideration. And any questions?
Yeah, once the water recedes, is there going to be a problem if we plant vegetables in the ground with the water because of the pollution?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll go to that level. No, I think once the water recedes, nature will take its course and you should be able to, you'll be fine. Yes.
My understanding is that the sewer goes north from 16th to the county. Is that the case?
Yeah, from our Lakeshore Lift Station, yes.
Okay, so do we get any kind of, would we get an alert from the county if they wanted us to conserve? Because we heard from the city, but we didn't hear anything from the county about whether they were having sewer problems.
Yeah, I don't think they put out a conservation effort, so,
yeah.
so no. And if they did, we would pass that on, especially to the residents.
Oh,
local
okay,
to
so it
that.
would come from you then?
Yeah,
Okay,
we'd
good.
pass that on, but we did it internally just to
Yeah,
try
well,
to
we got
mitigate the
it.
whole problem, yeah.
I didn't wash any clothes and then I realized it wasn't.
I'm sure.
Well, they're probably having
But I'm
some
sure-
They're
issues
having
too.
problems.
I'm sure it helped
yeah.
them, yeah, they were-
But we didn't get it, so we get it from you. Great, thank you.
Now, is the county testing the water in different areas?
I would imagine environmental health is, but I can't attest to that 100%. Yeah, I don't know.
So there's no way we can go online and check for lake water samples or anything like that?
At this point, I'm not aware of any of that, no. Yes.
So you still need us to be reducing wastewater in Lakeport?
Water conservation, I think you can start tapering off now because we are returning back to normal levels. So again, if we get to a status where we seem a little stressed, we'll send out another nixle. But again, I appreciate the conservation efforts of it. Yes.
So nothing has impacted our drinking water? That
That's
was the
correct.
other thing that everybody was,
Yeah, there was rumors.
I'm in the condos, so, we had different people, and because of that
Yeah.
other alert, there was,
I was hearing rumors going around too, and I was being personally contacted, and no, the water supply has always been fine. We actually treat well water for the Scotts Valley area, and there's been no pressure drops, no shutdowns or anything like that, good chlorine residuals, no problems with the water whatsoever. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay. So a couple of questions came up from folks that had questions about county concerns. And one thing I want to tell you first of all is our emergency ops, we stay in contact with the county emergency operations center when it's going, no, I'm serious. If they are in duty officer status, then I have the ability to be in constant contact with their duty officer. And just when you understand the EOC operations, because I could tell you have a question about that, they're operating at times when there's work that needs to be addressed. But going back to these questions, just like us communicating with them, they send representatives, and tonight we have Denise Pomeroy here from the county who was attending our meeting with Supervisor Scott, and she is able to answer some of those questions. So I've invited her up, and she's going to do that now.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Denise Pomeroy. I'm the Director of the Health Department here in Lake County. So there were some questions about health of the water. We have sent out several advisories, both through the city and through the county, and they're advisories, they're cautionaries. Any pollution that comes out is very diluted, and so it's not this high-risk thing that you have. But we still want you to stay out of the water. Until the water recedes back to its normal lake level, we want you to follow law enforcement and city officials' recommendations on staying out of the water for your own safety and for the safety of others. So our team is out doing health assessments now. They started yesterday, along with planning, and so they'll be going around checking the water, checking houses, checking restaurants, looking to see if there's any contamination out there, and those reports will be available probably later this week. Okay. Right now, we don't have any information. We have to wait for the water to go down.
And so how are they going to be available?
Ray Romensky, he's the director of our environmental health department. They'll probably be putting out information through the city and through the county EOC. Typically we use Nixle, but we have gone around and posted advisories along every post office, every major grocery store, and other public entities around the entire Lake Shore. So we'll continue to do
Is
that.
there gonna be any additional mosquito abatement or anything because of the flooding?
Too early to tell.
I just want to reiterate, I really commend the environmental health because we've been in contact with them for days on concerns. I mean, they're continuously reaching out to us, pushing important information out to us, which we try to get out to our residents. And, you know, that's why we highly encourage people to follow up the way we put press releases out to guarantee that you get them.
Thank you.
You have a question?
Yeah, so as people that live on the lake, is there anything that we need to know about that we have around our house that we should make sure that we put up or put away, or that can help not contaminate things?
Yes, actually there was a second health advisory we sent out early in the week. We sent it out in English and Spanish through the city and through the county that list several steps before you reoccupy. So I don't remember what Nixle alert that was.
I can't recall, but also...
But we can send it out again. Yeah. And it says to, be aware of, drywall, hazardous materials. If you have hazardous materials in your house that have been flooded, you need to make sure that you're using safety precautions to make sure that they're clean and they're bagged. They will later, as we get into debris cleanup mode, have, dump stations around the area for people. But that's too early yet, and I don't really have any information on any of that.
Well, I guess what I'm talking about is just like what, some people are not fully evacuated, like what they have around their house, what they can pick up and put away to make sure that things are cleaner in the lake, Because some people don't have common sense.
Okay, so we can do another one. We'll send out the one that we have, and it basically says that, any food that's been contaminated needs to be thrown away. Anything that's saturated, if it can't be professionally cleaned, then it should probably be discarded. So.
Yeah, well, what I'm talking about is that we have, like, maybe outside our house that could contaminate water, or, you know what I mean?
You're talking about like if you have a gas can or something.
Right.
Yeah, is there a place where you can take
pesticides
that
and that
get
kind of
rid of
stuff.
it?
The bottom line is that stuff should not be left sitting around outside of a house on the ground.
I know, but a lot of people,
So-
they don't have common sense.
We understand that, and that's why these advisories go out that talk about the possible issues what could contaminate water. But
I was just gonna say too, we have that emergency center number up there, so if you call us and you have an email address or something, we'll be glad to send that again to you personally, so you make sure you have that information. If you call that number there, it's 263-5614, just for anything, but even if you missed an alert and you want some information on it, we have it available. We'll make sure we,
we'll find it and email it to you.
Yeah.
In addition to that, on the advisories, it does say that if you've been evacuated or you chose to evacuate it, before you re-enter your home, check in with both planning and code at the county and the environmental health department.
Okay.
And our number is 263-1164.
Okay.
So they will give you guidance on what you should throw away, what you should, what's safe to clean and those types of things.
Yeah.
Another question?
Me?
Yes.
Okay, so the only way I found out about some of this stuff was because my daughter gets texts, but I don't even know what Nixle is.
Yeah.
And when she told me, well, you need to find out about this, and then I had to go to the website, and I tried going to the Lakeport website, and it had Twitter, this and this and this, easy to get to, but I had to search around to try to get the information for this meeting.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to give you feedback that I'm quasi techie, but not enough to really, and there's a lot of people out there that don't get that information. And the condos, if we're on certain parts, we don't have any TV, internet, or phone because MediaCom is shut down.
And we are also posting all of our health advisories on our county website underneath the Environmental Health Department and the Public Health Department. So if you have anybody who has access, they can go there and print those for you, as well as the post offices and the grocery stores.
And also our last section, which is coming up right now, our PIO, Mr. Ingram, is going to explain that and how to access our notification system and also our website and all that stuff.
And I was just going to say, after he explains that, if anyone needs help with putting that in their phone, staff would be glad to help anyone personally get that.
But there's a lot of people who don't text.
Okay.
Just so
Right,
that you guys
but that's
know.
not the only, you can also have it set up by email.
Yeah, get it on your email.
Yeah, you can get it set up so it's on your email. I also want to give a shout out to some of our media outlets. I know Lake County News is here today too. They've been getting our notices as well, and I've seen a lot of them republish them as well. In addition to that, all of this information, we've been taking anything that we're putting out on Nixle, and it's going directly on our website. Right on the left-hand side of our homepage, there's a tab that says Flood 2017 event, and it's got everything listed in there. We're also putting it in Spanish as well. But to get it immediately, the best thing to do is to get it through the text. You can sign up to get it emailed to you as well if you don't have text ability. And what you do is you go in to your message and go into 888-777, and then you text in your zip code. And Brad, does that give you get the sheriff's ones too at that point?
I think you have to just, that's sheriff's one.
Does that give you sheriff's one too?
My understanding of how this works, if you're signing up by text from your phone, you enter the zip code of the jurisdiction that you want to receive messages from. So example, you live in Lakeport, you would text the Lakeport zip code to that phone number. If you live in Kelseyville and you want notices, when the sheriff puts out something in Kelseyville, you would then do another text to that number with the Kelseyville zip code. And that automatically would connect you to my agency and the sheriff. Or you can set up, if you go to Nixle online, you can set up an account and receive them from as many jurisdictions as you want to. Yes.
It might be a little confusing to some when you point over there and say that phone number. I see it 263.
I'm sorry.
Phone number.
That's the phone number.
This one here, if you text this number, 888-777.
That doesn't look like a phone number to most.
Right.
I know.
That's why we'll help anyone here that.
Yeah, we'll stay after and help anybody enter that in.
We'll enter it and we'll show you how to do
And then
it in 2 seconds.
Then you put your zip code in there. The other thing, as far as our community noticing, I mean, you know, like Val already said earlier, the close connections that these neighborhood societies have directly with law enforcement, we're reaching out to them on a regular basis to try and get that information out. We appreciate that. That makes our jobs a lot easier and also just disseminates the information a lot better as well. We did a lot of the community noticing by hand. We went out to these sections as well. So, but we are here afterwards to help anybody who's having any difficulty with that. We can help you get those set up. Any questions?
Yeah, you talked about cleaning up Royal Street, which I just see it from Main Street. It doesn't look that bad to me, but Canocta has a big old pile of stuff at the bottom of that with dumpster logs and reeds. How do we go about getting that cleaned up? Because I could use some propane. We're not getting any mail. We're not getting any garbage collection.
When we get ready to open that street back up, and before we can open the street, we'll have, Public Works will come in for the streets and clean all of that up.
And do you have any kind of schedule for that?
When the water goes down and we're able to open the street.
Well, I don't know what you mean by the water going down. I mean, the water's been going down and we got a big old pile of stuff.
Right.
I mean, if you're doing Royal, why not come over a couple more streets and clean up some stuff off the
We're going to be assessing if we can move the barricades as the water recedes and it becomes safe for my crews to get in there and work. Then we're going to start moving those closures back closer to Esplanade, and within possibly towards the end of this week. And when we move those closures back, then we'll take and clean all of that up. But right now, that's what's keeping that big four-wheel drive from plowing around the barricades and going down and terrorizing the people on the Esplanade too. So it kind of, I understand where you're coming from, but it also kind of serves a dual purpose for us in keeping people out of that neighborhood that aren't parking there and walking in, but are blowing by the barricades and getting into that area.
Okay, so you're doing daily assessments?
We're doing daily assessments. Every day my staff is out looking at how much of this can we open up? How much of this can we open up? So if that water keeps receding at the rate it's receding now, then those barricades on all of those side streets around Esplanade, they will be starting to move down the hill closer to Esplanade so we can open more of that area up to the people that can get in and out without having to drive through the water.
Okay.
Okay?
And where do we talk about lake management?
Up the hill at the courthouse.
They did have a public meeting last Sunday and put out a Nix alert about allowing some boats back in,
They're
so.
like blowing up that rock that's keeping the water from going out?
Yeah, we have talked to lake management about that, but we don't have any jurisdiction on the actual lake in the city of Lakeport, so. Is there more questions that we haven't answered?
Yeah, to the previous lady's point, I think it was kind of stepped over as regards to things left around the house. I think that was a little bit broad. There are sheds that are in the water, there are garages that are in the water and such. I think perhaps what she was more asking, or at least my interpretation of what I was hearing was, perhaps you guys could put out an advisory making some suggestions of when somebody comes up to inspect their property on the weekend, or if they're leaving their property, to move things like lawnmowers to a higher area and other things that they may have in their garage or in their shed that are properly stored, but under the circumstances, if they begin to float, become not properly stored. I don't think everybody in the rush of trying to protect their valuables and be out of the areas are looking at, hey, maybe I shouldn't leave that behind because it's going to be affected. So I think that was really where they were trying to get.
I think, we'll try to talk about that with our team and see how that might be best put out. I think would be what we could do.
Along with that, if people have things like sheds and they've got stuff that's gotten water soaked, is there a special procedure for taking care of things that?
That's all part of the recovery process that is being transitioned into now. And I think, Denise can correct me, but until the water's gone, we're not going in those places to do that kind of stuff.
No, I know, but I mean,
And
if you find that you've got stuff, is there a dump site or something?
We're looking into that. I don't know when or how that's going to happen for that. I don't know.
If we can get more information about some of the chemicals
I will, we'll get it
that
out.
things are concerned, we'll make sure we get that out in as many forms as we can, so there's different ways of getting that information out. And we will be doing more discussion about recovery. Will there be dumpsters? Where will they be, and how will you get rid of some of the stuff? We're just starting to have that conversation now about recovery, because we still think we have some time, there's still some water. But we know some people have less water and are going to start thinking about recovery real soon and getting their stuff. So we understand there's more information that we need to get out to the public as that's coming up. And so we're been in emergency mode until now. And now we're still got the emergency, but it's more now looking at the next steps. How do we recover from this? What information do we need to get out to you so to make that safe for you to, recover your own things and
You guys
get back in.
you've done a really good job.
Oh,
You really
thank you.
have, and your posts and your Nixle alerts and everything, I found have been very, very helpful.
Really? Thank you, and we appreciate it. We work with like OES back there that, on a constant basis with the county OES so that we're all getting out the same information. And
The stuff I get from the city is good.
So we appreciate that. Thank you. It's all about, getting that information out. And we apologize. Sometimes it's harder to get to.
It's just these people like me that are kind of old-fashioned, and we don't do a lot on the computer, and we don't do texting, and You fall through the cracks.
But please, take that phone number down. We have scaled down the time. We were working 24/7. We've now scaled it down to 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for that number there.
Is that
So-
emergency too?
No, not on weekends.
We just scaled down just now, because we were working 24/7. So now we're scaled down to more questions that aren't so an emergency level. We're getting back to those.
So
Is
when
Yolo
the
County responsible for this emergency?
I wish we could blame it on somebody else, but no, we just deal with it.
I got a couple of points. Did you have a question? Is there a question?
I'll follow you, Brad. What do you got?
Okay. So I also wanted to say we have a emergency call, voice call system also, okay? That is also run through our Nixle account. The way you can get to that is you have to do it on the computer, not on the phone. And I'd be more than happy to explain it. I have a very detailed description on our website that we could also print copies and make available for people. But what that does is, so the police department purchases the AT&T phone data from AT&T on all hard lines in our jurisdiction. We purchase that every year and update it. That goes directly into our call system. Some people don't use hardline anymore. They only use voice over internet protocol or cell phone. There is not a emergency call system that will hit any VoIP or any cell number unless you go in and enter it into our system where we have the AT&T numbers. So when we did the emergency call on the sewer, the fight we were having with keeping our flows under, we put out that call voice-wise to the entire city, and it went to the AT&T hard lines. It came to my cell phone because I have gone in and told the system that I want my cell phone to be called. And that's because there is no format available out there that we can purchase on cell data. It doesn't exist, or for VoIP data. So we put out that press release a couple of times over the last few months. But I just want to make that point too. And if anyone has further questions about that or needs assistance signing it up, ask me afterwards or call our emergency center number and we will print it out, fax it to you, email it to you, walk you through it on the phone, whatever is necessary.
Another thing we didn't discuss tonight is if you have a neighbor, anyone that needs special assistance to get out, we'd like to keep that on file anytime so if there is an emergency in that area, we know who we need to go in and check on and make sure they're out if there's an emergency. So please let us know if there's a contact, you have a neighbor. I mean, it's always great for neighbors to check on neighbors, and that's what this is all about. It's what the neighborhood watch system is about. But we also would like to know if there's someone that needs assistance that needs to get out. It would be good for us to know who lives where that would need that assistance if they're willing to give us that information. We like to have that information if we need to help anyone. So, any more, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I'd just like to share that for 35 years I've been an instant commander of many large disasters throughout California. And moving here, I have seen this city staff develop over the past number of years preparing and upgrading themselves and training for disaster management. As I sit in these meetings that they have every day, I have never seen a group of people so proactive, stepping up to every challenge without having to be asked, but volunteering to do it. And I think they are an outstanding team. The city is so lucky to have such a group of individuals that have leadership skills, that gets and motivates the people out in the field to do a great job, and the communication skills are second to none as they commute with each other. My hat's off to you folks for what you've developed as a team here, and the city is so fortunate to have you.
And all the staff, thank you very much. Yeah, and we've learned a lot from Mr. Scott, from his experience in his emergency management, so thank you too. takes a while to get all this down, and nothing like an emergency to put all that to use. So we're learning as we go, and please, let us know if there's something we missed and something you need, and that's why we have that number there for you, or come in City Hall and come and see us. So anyway, have we answered most of your questions for tonight, or any questions that we left behind? And again, I want to thank the National Guard for helping us out and bringing their big vehicle. We've had 2 gentlemen here for the last few days sitting here waiting. They're needed, and that's, we really appreciate that effort. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And please don't hesitate, if you didn't want to ask anything in public, please make sure you call us anytime and ask us questions. And if anyone needs any help with Nixle or anything, please let us know.